All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. If ever there was a head coach that was in need to get this college football season started on the right foot, it was Florida's Billy Napier. But instead, today, what we saw from the Florida Gators was not good to the point that we heard chants for Napier to be fired at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium during the Gators' 41-17 loss, courtesy of the Miami Hurricanes. Florida never led today, and they never had an answer for new Miami quarterback Cam Ward. He scored a touchdown on the Canes' opening drive, never looked back. Like I said before, Florida never had a lead in this game. And honestly, after about midway through the second quarter, this game was not never in doubt. You look at what Cam Ward did today: 26 of 35 passing for 385, three touchdowns, and one interception. Xavier Restrepo had a big time season last season for Miami. He got things started on the right foot today as he torched this Gators secondary, 7 catches for a buck 12, and of course, one touchdown grab. It was one of those where you look at this because Florida simply got dominated. Okay. Miami had 529 yards of total offense today compared to just 261 for the Gators, while Florida was also just 1 of 9 on third down. Napier needs this season, okay, because he came into this campaign with a record of 11-14 in Florida, has never had a winning season in Gainesville. And it's unfortunate. And the reason why I say this is because Florida has become an afterthought in the SEC. It's hard to believe, okay, but you really got to go back to 2008 to find the last time that the Gators won the SEC. And you think about how things were during the 1990s under Steve Spurrier. Florida dominated the SEC. It was Florida and everybody else. After 2008, they have gotten back to Atlanta for the SEC championship game a couple of times. But of course, since then, the SEC East, which no longer exists, was dominated by Georgia. We saw Florida get back to the championship game in 2009. They made it a couple of times under Jim McElwain, made it once under Dan Mullen. But since then, you look at where this program has really slid. And remember, a lot of people are going to say this and people are going to run with it. And I know Dan Mullen's probably sitting back, with his feet propped up. Dan Mullen went 10-3 in his first year at Florida back in 2018. He went 11-2 in 2019. He went 8-4 in 2020. Went 5-6 before in 2021 before he was let go. And after one bad season, it's kind of cascaded, if you will, into the lap of Billy Napier right now for Florida. It's sad because the Gators have not finished a season ranked since 2020. And you got to go back to pre Steve Spurrier to find the last time that Florida finished 3 consecutive seasons not ranked. You look at today's game, and it's not just that Florida lost, it's that they didn't even belong on the same field with Miami. And it's one of those, the Canes were just a step ahead, a step and a half, if you will, above Florida today. It was one of those where, usually at the beginning of the season, you see a lot of intensity, an electric atmosphere, because, the fan base wants to see what the team's going to look like for this fall. And very rarely do you have a quiet Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for the season debut of the Florida Gators. But basically, for the second half of this contest, that is what it became. So you look at Florida. And of course, the question is going to be, will they be able to get on track this season? Like I said, coming in, Florida has themselves a very difficult schedule, arguably the most difficult schedule in the nation. But they need to figure this thing out quick. They got Stanford at home next week before they welcome Texas A&M to town, and then they're at Mississippi State. But then you look at it, You still got UCF. You still got a trip to Knoxville, to Tennessee. You're home for Kentucky. Of course, you're taking on Georgia down in Jacksonville. You still got, like I said, Tennessee. You got to go to Texas and look at these last 5 games for Florida, after their break. So you look at the month of November. They got Georgia in Jacksonville. They're in Austin to take on Texas. They host LSU. They host Ole Miss, and then they finish up at Florida State. At this point, and I've said this coming into the year, if Billy Napier can find a way to get 6-6 with this squad, you know what? That might be saying something at this point. It's one of those where they're just not getting the recruits like they did once upon a time. And it's hard to believe because when you think about Florida, you think about speed. They don't have those playmakers at the wide receiver position like they did once upon a time. They don't have that speed, in the defensive secondary. They just don't have the playmakers on either side of the ball right now. And I think that showed up in a big time way today as they were on the wrong side of a 24-point loss to the University of Miami. If you're Billy Napier, you came into the season on the hot seat. That hot seat just got a little bit hotter. And if Florida's going to play like this all season long, Napier won't make it to that Florida State game. That much I can guarantee. Bad start for the Gators, bad start for Napier. But at the end of the day, you still got a season to try to get this thing turned around. How will Florida rebound? Can they get on track? Can they get their offense on track? Because again, one of the big things was getting Graham Mertz back at quarterback. 11 of 20 today for 91 yards with a pick. Florida did not have a touchdown throw today from either one of their quarterbacks. They gave up 144 yards on the ground to Miami. And again, it just wasn't there. But let's see if the Gators can try to find a way to get this thing on track. And let's see if Napier can basically quiet his critics and cool off that hot seat that just got a little bit hotter. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.